Jesus is the answer for the world today.
Good morning, family. God bless you. Pastor Laulu from Christian Pentecostal Church here, and I want to share a devotional moment today. And I'm going to read from Genesis chapter 22. I'm going to be reading from verse 11 to verse 14. Bear with me. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He answered, Here I am. The Lord said, Do not reach out with the knife in your hand against the boy, and do nothing to harm him. For now I know that you fear God with reverence and profound respect, since you have not withheld from me your son, your only son of promise. Then Abraham looked up and glanced around, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering, a sending sacrifice instead of his son. So Abraham named that place Jehovah Jireh. The Lord will provide. And it is said to this day, on the mountain of the Lord it will be seen and provided. I want to point to one more portion of scripture before we continue. It is in the same chapter, Genesis chapter 22, verse 7 and 8. 7, and Isaac said to Abraham, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. Isaac said, Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? 8, Abraham said, My son, God will provide for himself a lamb for the burnt offering. So the two walked on together. So I want to talk about something this evening, and let's go with the little context of this verse of scripture, or this portion of scripture. At the beginning of chapter 22, we see that God comes to Abraham and said, Abraham, offer up to me your son, your only son Isaac, as an offering, unto me. And we see that Abraham obeyed. Now, the verse 8 that we just read, said that Abraham understood and said, God will provide. In the New Testament, we see that Abraham really believed, he had complete faith that when he went through it, God will raise Isaac from the dead, because God does not lie. So since the promise was to come through Isaac, then therefore God had to raise Isaac from the dead in order for the promise to continue. So Abraham believed that. So he marched on. Now we see that when Abraham is going ready to offer Isaac as a sacrifice, the angel Lord stops him and says, Do not harm your son. We see then that Abraham sees a ram in the thicket caught by the horns, and he offers that ram up instead as a substitute for his son Isaac. And Abraham says, God will provide. He named the place Jehovah Jireh. God will provide. And it says that upon that, until this day, it said, upon the mountain of the Lord will provide. Another way to read that God will provide Jehovah Jireh is God will see to it. We see that as a prophetic moment that is fulfilled in the New Testament when the Lord provided his own son as a substitutional sacrifice for us all. And when I start thinking about the word Jehovah Jireh, in this day and age, when we think of Jehovah Jireh, we think about God who will provide, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. And that's where our mind tends to go based on the song, and based on the songs that we hear, that I'll be content because God will provide for me. But no matter what circumstance we find ourselves in, the truth of the matter is, first and foremost, as we mentioned about last week in terms of peace, the Lord has already provided for our peace. He has already provided that substitutionary sacrifice that makes me a child of His, that makes you a child of His. Jehovah Jireh. My Father will provide. God will provide. He fulfilled that by providing His Son. But it does not mean that we cannot continue to look at Him as our provider, because He's the same God yesterday, today, and forevermore. As He provided then in the form of the ram, He provided later in the form of His Son, and He continues to provide today, and He will forever provide, because He is Jehovah Jireh. God bless you, and give thanks to your Jehovah and my Jehovah Jireh.